Welcome to Don't Quote Me on That. One day we will have an intro, but today is not that day. Hello, hello, hello. This is Elanor.
This is Kalina.
And welcome back to Don't Quote Me on That, where we talk about movies. And we can very confidently say that this week.
We had to make up for not being here last week.
Yeah, what happened is one of us might have possibly given the other one maybe the flu.
Yeah.
I don't quite think that's how. I think they just both cases happened to pop up like at the same time. I don't think it's actually anything I did. But the reality is one person was sick unknowingly, and then it got worse while they were in the same room as the other person, and then the other person got sick. But that could mean anything. This week, we are talking about a movie. It's actually, I think we're doing great this week. It's a pretty recent movie. It came out in November of last year. I watched it, I think, New Year's Eve. And then you just watched it
yesterday. I wanted to watch it while I was still sick, but not quite. I was in and out of it the first 4 days. So while I was not delusional.
That's understandable. I watched it when I was a little drunk, which didn't make it better, but also didn't make it worse. So
that definitely would have made it better for me.
I think it made parts of it better, but not parts you're going to want to hear about.
Okay.
This whole episode is also inspired by a tweet that I saw that said, I think Saltburn is a lot of your guys' first weird movie, which for me, definitely true. It's also my first movie, so
fair enough.
I can't really be held responsible for that. Kalina and I think both agree that it could get a little bit weirder, but I think we'll go more into that as we go on. We're talking about Saltburn. It is, I don't know if it's set to late to be called a period piece, but it's definitely not set in current time. It is, yeah. I want it the late 2000s.
I think it's 2002, 2003, because in the opening scene...
Oh, sorry, 2006.
2006?
Yeah.
Really? Because when he walks in, it says... Well, that wouldn't make any sense, but okay, whatever. When he walks in, it says, welcome class of 2006, but usually they'd put, the class you're gonna graduate in. Does that make sense? That is true,
but according to my sources, which is the Wikipedia page, it's 2006.
Wild. Okay. Oh, no,
I think 2006 would make... You never watched Skins, did you?
Nope.
Okay. Well, as an avid Skins enjoyer in my youth, I really liked the anyway, set in 2006. I think what's her face, the sister, and Effie Stoneham would be really good friends. I know those words don't mean a lot to you.
Nothing.
But they mean a lot to me. And I also think
community.
Vibes wise, the movie did really, I think the costuming was really good and quite believable for 2006. Where the start of the movie, we'll just start there. It's class of 2006. Where are they at Oxford, or are they just at some? Yeah, okay. They're at Oxford. We meet Mr. Our Irish king, Mr. Barry Keoghan. He is a scholarship student. And he's poor. Wah wah. We also meet campus heartthrob.
They've been everybody's for obsessed all of 5 minutes.
Everybody wants to climb him like a tree. He just gets these beautifully framed shots where he's talking to people and his arms are out and he's got this eyebrow piercing
And
which
he's
we'll
so
let
tall
Kalina talk
and
about.
long. And I have so many thoughts.
I do think that me being a little bit in love with Nicholas Hoult when he was in Friends, I do think that predisposed me to being a little bit in love with all the men in this movie, but that's okay. Also, I still don't know if Barry Keoghan is hot. He works for me very sporadically.
Yeah, I'm like, he's Irish, so obviously he's like 50%
That gives
better
him a
than
leg
most
up.
people. But we'll get there. But the ending scene, or like not the ending scene, but like towards the end, he's wearing this little blue like half zip. He's got glasses on. He looks so good there, and like
He also just like, I love it when anybody has any type of accent. According to some of the like TikToks and tweets I've seen, his accent doesn't like match where he's supposed to be from in this movie. But I'm not smart enough to tell the difference between accents. He sounded not American, and that was close enough. He has range. He does have range.
But let's get through this.
Let's get through this.
Talking about how they look. We'll save that for the end.
Sorry, we're not to sexualize actors or anything, but like, okay. So, Oliver Barry Keoghan is poor. Oh no, the other one, Felix, is not. And Oliver he has trouble making friends. Okay, he's not really in like the big Oxford society. Like, it just doesn't quite seem that the other people in his class are quite there for purely academics like he seems to be. So, you know, homeboy's struggling a little bit. He catches eyes with Mr. Felix from across, and they kind of,
they're like
they know
orbiting each other.
And then what happens is Mr. Felix was getting ready to ride his bike to class, and oh no, his bike breaks down. And who comes walking down the street with his own bike that works?
Is it Oliver?
Oh my goodness, yes it is. And Oliver's like, you can take my bike so that you can get to class on time because I'm so cool and so selfless. Here you go. And Felix is like...
And then Felix kisses him on the head and says, I love you entirely too many times for my mental health to be good.
Yeah. And I'm also
this is the first conversation they've ever had.
That Felix is like, thanks. Also, when you fix my bike, you can give it back.
Yes.
Which, so funny.
And Oliver was like, and Felix was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to assume. And Oliver's like, no, it's cool. I'll do that.
Which I quite liked because I think it's very obvious just from this first interaction that not only is Felix a little bit out of touch, he's very used to not doing things for himself to a point.
Yes. He's entitled, and not in a way that I think like is actively bad, but in the sense that like if you're entitled, you're a little spoiled. It's like inherently bad. You know what I mean? But like I don't think he's like going out of his way to be like impose upon people. He just genuinely thinks that's how the world works.
Yeah.
Because then when like Elanor talked about these beautiful shots he's framed in, he's like the center of the tension. It's like Last Supper-y in the sense that like you like there's a lot happening, but you can tell what the focus of the piece is. And people are like fawning over him for his, probably because of how he looks, to be honest. But like also like it's very clear he has money and just like the status that comes with being around him. There's always, at any given point in time, at least 4 people hanging around him.
Mm-hmm. And at least 2 of them are pretty girls.
Yeah. And
good for him. But now that they have met, they have collided, as it were. We get a montage. I think montages are sometimes hard to do well. Mm-hmm. But this one was good. It's really just them hanging out, being boys. We get one scene where they're doing rounds at a pub and they're with all of their friends, and Oliver, it's his turn to buy the round, and he's kind of bullied into going up a little bit.
Not quite. You're not framing that quite right.
No?
Offense.
Okay.
What happened is Oliver has like this. There's only like one other guy in the entire school apparently that also doesn't have any friends, and he's kind of like, no offense, a little bit of a stick in the mud. And he and Oliver are hanging out, and then Oliver goes to get him another pint while the guy goes to the bathroom. I think his name's Michael. He goes to get Michael a pint while Michael goes to the bathroom. And Felix catches sight of Oliver at the bar, and he's like, oh my god, that's the guy that saved my life the other day. I was just telling everyone about you. Come over here. Oliver like goes to sit down at the table with Felix and all of Felix's many hanger-ons. And Michael's just standing there looking really confused. And Felix is like, oh my god, are you here with your friend? And Oliver's like, no, he just left. And just kind of lets him get enveloped. But he keeps looking back at Michael, which I think made the whole insult to injury worse. But this is the first time they like hang out, I would say, after the bike incident.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. It's drinks and then montage?
Yeah.
Okay. That's my bad.
But yes, so they're all going around, they're drinking, and then Felix has this friend named Farley who kind of seems, I think like jealous of Felix's attention, in the sense that I think he's actually Felix's friend, more so than the other of the posse around them, but still is like not necessarily in it for the best reasons. But he's more so Felix's friend, and
I think they're cousins, aren't they? Or at least
they're cousins.
Friends enough to.
Yeah, no, they're cousins. They have more of a substantial relationship than the rest of the hanger-ons do. And Oliver's like, yeah, so they're going around. Everyone, I guess, is buying their rounds. And Farley's like, oh, yeah, now it's Jaeger bombs. And Oliver's like, I really think I should, like, go home. And Farley's like, you can't get out of your round. And it's like, basically making it seem like Oliver's trying to, like, skip out. And Oliver's like, fine, I'll go. And after Oliver leaves the table to go buy the rounds, Felix is like, come on, man, like, you're giving him a really hard time. And Farley's like, what? That's just, like, the rules. Farley is like, I think if this story were not telling what it was trying to tell, which, whatever it was trying to tell, different question entirely. But if it weren't telling whatever story it was trying to tell, Farley would be very much like the pretty girl who's, like, playing dumb. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Like that TikTok sound.
I was just about to say that. I know exactly what you're going to say.
Yeah. Okay. Where the girl's like, oh, can I have your phone number so I can give you something? And then the girl at the table, the other girl's talking like getting a guy's phone number. And the girl's like, oh my god, no, he forgot his phone. And the other girl's like,
oh, okay, that's not the one I was gonna say.
Oh, the one where she's like, can't hurt, might hurt.
Oh, no, the one I was gonna say is, you know the girl that's like, oh, how much do I owe you? And, and the guy's like, oh, nothing. And it's like me asking that question knowing all I have is a lip gloss in my purse. That's Farley.
Okay.
Same energy though.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, Mr. Felix comes to the rescue, pays for Oliver's round, real covert, like.
Felix got a heart of gold. We love him.
He does. Felix is
and
such a nice boy. And an eyebrow ring. Okay. Now it's a montage.
Now it's a montage.
Now it's a montage. They're hanging out. They're becoming friends. They're not kissing, but they might. And then we get the lake scene right before he gets invited over.
The Rock? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Mr. Felix and Mr. Oliver hanging out, and I think Oliver gets the phone call while they're together.
No. Oh, you know what happened? They were hanging out, and Oliver was like, "It's things in here. We need to clean up." Blah 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 blah. And Felix is like, "Yeah, I'll do it later," because they're hanging out at Felix's dorm. And Oliver's like, "No, we need to do it right now." So he starts to pick up things, and Felix like flips out at him, He's like, I'm not a child. Like, I can do it myself. You know what? I think I'm gonna like do some studying or blah blah blah, something like that, right? And he's like, I'll talk to you later, Oliver. And Oliver's like, oh yeah, okay, sure. And then I think it's clear like they haven't really like kind of caused a rift in the relationship, and so they probably haven't spoken in like a couple of days. Oliver gets a phone call, which in retrospect, diabolical. But Oliver gets a phone call and then shows up at Felix's door crying. And it's like, and then somewhere in this montage, I think somewhere in that montage, we found out that like Oliver's family were like alcoholics and dealers. And so he gets a phone call, he shows up at Felix's door crying. Felix is like, oh my God, what's going on? And then turns out Oliver's dad has died. Dun, dun, dun.
And so then they basically, Felix feels bad for his friend, and decides to kind of, as part of kind of making him feel better, lets him in on. It's an established family tradition at this point, isn't it? It's like
He says, yeah, kind of.
enough. It's
Enough.
or at least something he and his sister have done. Anyway, what they do is they go to a lake or a body of water, and they write the name of the deceased person on a rock, and then they throw the rock into the lake. It's symbolic, I guess, but it clearly, like, it's something that is important to Felix from his own life, and kind of letting Oliver into that. It kind of mends whatever issue was happening with the little cleanup tiff. Oliver's like, he doesn't want to go home and have to face reality of his dad being dead. His mom is probably going to go off the rails from it. It sounds like she wasn't on a lot of rails to begin with. So Oliver is just like very put out by the whole situation. Understandably, right?
Yep.
And Felix is like, dude, why don't you just spend the summer with me?
And like, who am I to say no to a man that looks like that? Is probably what that's probably what Oliver was thinking.
That's probably what we were all thinking. And also, if he had said no, there wouldn't be a movie, so he said yes. And so we go to Saltburn, which is the name of the house. I think it's also the name of a town in the United States, but I always thought that Saltburn was the actual, like, name of the estate.
I think so. Because because later in the movie something comes up and someone says, oh, come back to Saltburn. And the way they speak of it is like it is the house itself, not like, oh, come back to the town. You know what I mean? I can't say too much without giving up spoilers. So.
But they go to Saltburn together, and we meet Felix's family, and they're weird, shockingly.
And not like in a creepy weird, but just in a like out of touch rich people. Like not even like out of touch rich people. But you ever met someone who like, well, I guess rich people, like someone, like when we were in college, we lived with someone who never had to cook for himself. And like you could tell, like there's just like an experience in life that they've never had, but it's like a very basic experience. Not like, oh, I've never been skiing. It's like, I've never learned how to use an oven, you know? They're just like a little divider. And they're not like people who can't function, but they can't function.
Well, they know how to get stuff done, but the way that they get stuff done is to have other people do it for them, which is how they live. They very clearly have never touched an oven, touched a dirty dish for the purposes of cleaning it. And it's Oliver's parents, mom and dad. Felix's parents, mom and dad. Oliver doesn't have a dad anymore. R.I.P. Felix's sister, one of Felix's mom's friends, who is just there. And then Farley is also there. And I think you're right. This is when we learn that Farley and Oliver, oh my god, Farley and Felix are cousins. And also Oliver and Farley already do not get along. Farley just doesn't seem to be very nice, especially not to Oliver. Which, can we blame him? Not really.
I think as the film goes on, also, it feels like Farley is trying to, feels like he's in this precarious position, which I don't know if this was the intent, but also Farley is not white, and everyone else is. And so, I feel like Farley is, one, he's, the cousin that's, been taken in by this family. It's, the early 2000s. He's not white. He is a weird picture of privilege compared to the rest of Felix's family. And so now this other, white guy comes out of nowhere and just has been consumed by Felix, which we learn is a common thing with Felix, is Felix, takes in people and then kind of gets bored of them and moves on. But also Farley is the one that tells Felix that, so, is he to be trusted? But Farley, is very clearly, it seems like he's trying to hang on to this piece of privilege in this life that he is not necessarily carved out for himself, but, even if it's not as precarious as he thinks it is, he does not feel stable in it, and, doing what he can to hang on to his little bit of, I don't want to say, his 15 minutes of fame, but, similar vibe.
And for me, there's also the layer of, I think Oliver being there and kind of being quote-unquote chosen by Felix makes Farley kind of hyper aware that as a family member, he's not necessarily there because they want him to be, especially, Felix, the only other person who's they're at college together, so Felix isn't necessarily picking him to the same extent that he's picking Oliver, but also Farley is mixed and American, so there's a lot of, he's very much an outsider, even though on paper being related has kind of more of a reason to be an insider than Oliver does.
And I also think that, when they're, the trendsetters, it's very clear, also, when you look at their fashion compared to, what Oliver is seen wearing in the first scene, you can tell, they're elite, but they're cool. So Felix is obviously the head trendsetter, but Felix, being his cousin, being his, right-hand man, for lack of a better term, is also trend-setting. So at the end of the day, while, everyone is deferring to Felix and Farley still always, at the end of the day, has to defer to Felix. There's always going to be someone above him, whereas Felix doesn't have that issue. So Farley has to, play the subservient role, even if it's not, intended that way. There is always, no matter what he does, there is someone he will be lesser to. And
also, Felix's parents seem to just love Oliver. Is it because everybody in the family loves the project? It's possible. But when you're that rich and you can't actually do a home improvement project because you would never be caught dead touching a hammer, you gotta find some way to spend your time, okay? Doing coke only gets you through so much of a weekend. What happens next? They just kind of hang out for a while.
So they're at there. We meet Venetia, Felix's sister. And I love, now it's not as important because of what the film is, their names, but, I love when you can tell people don't have, naming of siblings in movies doesn't make any sense. Because, why is he Felix? And her name is Venetia. They both make sense for the characters and, the type of family it is. But they, realistically, they'd be, more aligned with each other.
Yeah, Felix is a little bit more of a,
and then we got Farley.
Normal name.
And I know he's not related to, but Farley. And then there's Felix. There's that guy. Felix. And what's his mom's name is Elspeth. And
I think also, like, part of it could be because the mom has a weird name. The like
The dad's name is
since
James, though, so.
since kind of women are more, not to be like, okay, here we go. This is thinking of this right now. I think women are more kind of objectified, which I know is a sentence nobody's ever said before. So they're allowed, like, they don't really have to participate in business, whereas the men probably do a little bit more. So they almost need names that are more quote unquote normal, whereas the women are just there to be pretty and funny and silly. Well, not funny, because funny means they're smart. They're just there to be pretty and to make sure things flow smoothly. So they can have weirder names because they don't have to be as integrated in kind of regular society as the men do. But like the men need normal enough names so that people can say them at a press conference and not be
Ridiculous.
completely, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do agree. You could find a more normal name that fits better with Venetia than Felix.
So they're all having dinner, and then they're just, it's like, again, I think a little montagey. They're like at the lake, they're in a field, they're young, they're hot, they're enjoying the summertime. Take it away.
Which part are we on now? Are we talking about what you want me to talk about?
Oh wait, also, when they bring Oliver to the house, he and Felix are sharing a bathroom, because otherwise Oliver would have been like on the other side of the house. And then also there's this housekeeper named Duncan, spent the whole movie trying to figure out what his angle was. I think his angle was he got paid to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing his job.
Yeah.
And I gotta respect the hustle.
Yep. Are we talking? Okay.
I think so.
So they share a bathroom. And, Felix is a healthy, virile, growing
Nope.
boy.
New word.
Okay. All right. Felix is a boy with a healthy sexual appetite.
Okay.
And Oliver is a little creep. And so we get a very artsy, I think we kind of just see part of his back and like his side. He's fully submerged in the bathtub. Felix is. And it's gotta be a really big bathtub for Jacob Elordi to look so comfortable in it. I'm a little jealous. I've almost never had a bathtub where I can
God, I know.
be that submerged.
I'm not 6'5".
I'm not 6'5", and I've never been that comfortable. Anyway, and through we just kind of see his arm moving. There are some noises, and look, he's having some alone time in the bathtub, as you do. And
Could have locked the door before he did it, but
he could have. Did he want to be watched? Probably not. Would I be surprised if he wanted to be watched a little bit? Not really.
I think that goes right back to his like rich boy just wouldn't even occur to him. He's in the privacy of his own home. He's a free man who sits around naked in a field with his friends. No one's gonna come peep on me.
And but somebody does come peep on him, and we watch as homeboy finishes in the tub, and then he exits the bathroom, and Oliver enters the bathroom. And look,
no. The worst part is they're brushing their teeth in the bathroom too. So like I don't know how long this tub took to drain, or if it's
it's got to be a large tub to fit all 6'5" of Mr.
And
Felix.
And the minute he was like done, Oliver was like, "Yo, I gotta brush my teeth," because that finishes. Cut scene. They are brushing their teeth. Felix goes, "All right, good night, Oliver. I'll see you tomorrow." Leaves the bathroom. Take it away.
Oliver does. I can't say it's what we would all do, but like, this is probably his only chance to be as close to Felix in this way. Because while he is huggy, he is kissy. I don't really get full on gay vibes from Felix. Should I have gotten more? I do believe there should have been more. But that is just personal preference. Anyway, there's still some water and some Felix left in the bathtub. And Oliver is like, hey, I'll help it drain a little faster. I'll get some of that water out. He essentially just he full on kind of makes out with this bathtub drain in order to ingest some of what came out of Felix after his alone time. Which,
you're doing a great job.
Fair enough. I did think, because look, one of the only things I heard about Saltburn before I watched it was this bathtub scene. I knew I knew the building blocks of the scene was that there was masturbation, there was ejaculation, and then there was licking. I thought it was going to be he was going to actually lick it up from the side of the bathtub. I thought it would be a little bit more graphic. And I was a little bit disappointed. I do think it could have been a little bit more graphic.
Oh no, I thought the tub was going to be fuller and he was just going to full on chug it.
And I also think, because we'll talk about this in a second, what happens next. I think Oliver's other encounters with, basically his encounter with Phoenicia was a little bit more full on, whereas with Felix there was kind of a layer between it because he was not actually touching Felix, which I think was smart because Oliver's never going to get Felix in the way that he seems to want him, which is in a homosexual sexual way.
Putting the erotic in homoerotic.
I do think, there could have been less licking of a bat. I thought he was going to lick it off the side of the bathtub. That's what I was more prepared for. So this was a little bit of a letdown. And then I think literally the next night or possibly the same night.
It's not too long after.
It's not. No, it's not. Oliver sees Venetia out the window. Right?
Yes. I think he's seen her out the window before and went out to talk to her. And they have a little chit chat and then they go back to bed. I think this scene happens. The bathtub scene is next. Then the next night or not too long after. Take it away.
He sees her again. And then I don't remember a lot of the fluff, the setup to this. And so we're just going to skip to the meat and potatoes of what happens, unless Kalina has any important establishing information. Okay, so I would like to preface this by saying this is the hottest that Barry Keoghan has ever been.
Really?
Oh my god. Just ever in his entire life. And that includes when he looked like Niall Horan being Ellen DeGeneres on the red carpet in that red suit, which worked for me more than it should have. It's I also anyway, what happens is Venetia is on her period and Oliver is like, I don't care. And how do I say this on the internet?
He says, I'm a vampire.
He does. He says, I'm a vampire, and then proceeds basically to get on his knees and knock one out for her. I don't think I'd appreciate that happening to me when I was outside. Because even though it's the summer, it could be cold because it's the middle of the night.
That's your only complaint?
But that is my only, it looks just uncomfortable because they're outside. It's objectively weird, apparently, Not something that I guess a normal dude would do, unfortunately. But he goes at her while she's on her period. Look, we love a king. That's some king shit. Good for him, good for her. Maybe don't have sex with the sister of the guy you're probably in love with, especially like if it's right under right under Oliver's window, it's like technically right under Felix's window. And if Felix had seen that, that would be weird. But like, good, good for him, good for her, good job, guys.
But they are spotted.
But they are spotted.
By none other than our homeboy Farley, who is a hater. Certified hater he is. And unfortunately, I do have to kind of respect it. And then Felix starts acting weird after that. Because, of course, Farley ran and told him.
Mm-hmm.
And then... No, go for it.
Yeah, so... Yeah, Felix starts acting weird. Because, obviously, he knows. But Oliver's like... Oh my god, I wouldn't do that. That's crazy. No way. Which, like, fair enough. I'd lie too.
Yeah, he's like, she made a pass at me and I turned her down. And Felix is like, well, Farley told me the two of you hooked up. And Oliver's like, and you believe him? It's like, it's very clear already. Kind of back to what you were saying earlier about, like, being chosen versus, like, he's just family. He's there. Kind of obvious where Felix is. I don't want to say loyalties lie, but who he's picked and deems trustworthy versus who's just trustworthy because they're around.
Mm-hmm. Also, Oliver is not incredibly happy with Farley for selling him out.
Mm-hmm.
Understandably. And we get a scene between them, which, like, I don't think I'm qualified to talk about because objectively, it's bad and it's mean and it's a little bit way too close to the line of sexual harassment for to be that, like, do not sexually harass people, don't get on top of them and do what he did. And I'm not saying that, like, I have a healthy relationship with men. But, like, that is the second hottest Barry Keoghan has ever been.
What was the hottest? Did you share
the
that
scene
already?
with Venetia.
Oh, yeah. Fair. You and I clearly have very different tastes. The hottest Barry Keoghan's ever been was at the end of this movie. Little blue half-zip glasses.
I mean, that was also good.
He looked also in Barry Keoghan's defense. Did I think he was cute? Yes. Unfortunately, he looked like comically short compared to Farley and Felix.
He did.
So, like, by the end of the movie, he was standing next to Rosamund Pike, who plays Felix's mom, and I think they were more like even in terms of height. So he didn't look comically short. Not that there's anything wrong with being short. It was just like very clear difference. I'm a tall girl.
Yeah.
Jacob Elordi 6'5".
Yeah.
I'm a simple woman.
Yeah, he is also, like, Oliver is also, like, laying down or not fully stood in the two scenes where I think he is hottest in this movie, which definitely helps him. And in the scene with Farley, he's definitely, like, puffing his chest up and, like, making himself look more intimidating, because nobody is intimidated by a 5'2" man.
Sorry,
I don't even know if he's
5'2" man.
Sorry. Sorry. Barry is a very, very normal, average 5'8". Okay,
Yeah,
that is a normal height for a man to be. They're just putting him next to some unfair competitors.
It's just not fair to put anyone next to Jacob Elordi, even if he wasn't cute. Like, I said this a couple episodes ago. I don't know what his PR team's been doing, but it's beautiful because, like, when he was playing what's that guy, Nate in Euphoria. Not that I think his PR was like bad, but like I just didn't get it. I was like, he's tall and big, so like I
got
like
it.
that.
He was
But,
being
like,
mean in that movie. Love when the boy is tall and mean. Sorry, don't abuse your girlfriend.
I like a big boy. I like a tall boy. And like so I got it from that aspect, but I didn't get like the hype. I was like, you could find any tall big boy and like it would be the same. But I don't know, he just like is so, he just seems so. And then in this movie he was very much like dead wife in a film coated. Like you kept getting montages of him lying in a field. He's like looking back over his shoulder. He
like lit up every room he walked in and then vanished without a trace. Oh yeah, and his hair looks so much better long than it ever did in Euphoria.
And Jacob Elordi's not just tall; he's like wide. He looks like a refrigerator in the best way possible.
He does.
That's my type, guys.
He's just like built. He walks into a room and he is there.
You know he's there
in that room.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Anyway, I have to cut out a lot of this.
Also, back on Oliver v. Farley.
Yes.
It turns out, I believe, like the next morning.
Yeah.
We learn that some prized plates,
yes.
I believe, have gone missing from...
No, what happened was the next morning I woke up, Oliver's like, yo, where's Farley? He's not at breakfast, right? And Felix is like, I think Felix or Venetia, but I think it's Felix says, oh, Farley sent an email to the guy at Sotheby's or something, like some antique place, that, oh, I just came across some of these blah, blah, blah plates, whatever the artist's name is, these blah, blah, blah plates. And James's dad is friends with the curator at the antique place and knows he owns those plates, so he gets this email from Farley, Felix's dad, James. So he goes to Felix's dad and is like, yo, this kid that is basically your child, your adopted kid, says he has these plates that he came across, but like, I know you own those plates. And they kick Farley out because Farley looks like he's trying to sell off their stuff.
I would like to argue that I had the important parts down. I knew they were about plates, and I knew they were about Farley selling them. Some of us didn't watch this movie.
And what is an email if not an electronic letter?
Exactly. Look, how was I supposed to remember that email had been invented in 2006? I wasn't alive then.
Please continue your story before I box you.
Okay. Continuing on in my story. Farley, R.I.P. Well, he's not dead.
Story. It's definitely not the story that
he's just out.
Emerald.
But anyway, Farley being kicked out signals to us, the audience, that while Felix's family is allegedly welcoming and will help fix up any stray they come across, there's a line, and the line seems to be messing with the family, which, fair enough. But Oliver has not yet done anything to anger the family. They all still seem fairly smitten by him. I think especially the mom seems to just be really into Oliver. Mm-hmm. And they decide that they're going to throw him a birthday bash. I think it's more just so that they have a good reason to throw a party than it is to, like, give Oliver a party. But they're rich people with money. That's what they do. And while they're, like, they tell him about the party, and then Felix decides to also do something nice for his friend. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And the nice thing that Mr. Felix decides to do for his friend Ollie is to be like, hey, there's no reason that you should let your birthday go by and not see your mom, but what happens is Felix just like, I have a surprise for you. And Oliver is like, I'm in love with you. You want me to be in a little car with you for a couple of hours? Absolutely. I would follow you to the ends of the earth.
He didn't even finish hearing the question. Felix
Yeah.
like, do you want to drive? Yep.
Yep.
Whatever you want.
So they're in the car, and I would say that, like, I definitely don't know how to get anywhere. But there would definitely be, like, signs that he's following in the car. It takes Oliver...
No, he's so busy looking at
He's
Felix.
so busy looking at Felix drive. Which, like, look, fair enough. He's in, like, this really great car. He's fine as all hell. But it takes a really long time, almost until they're turning onto his street, for Oliver to realize that Felix has taken him to see his family. And Kalina,
His mom. Yes.
what why is that bad? Why does that make Oliver freak out?
Oh my God. So, like, Felix is like, no, listen, I'm sorry. Your mom called. Your phone was in the bathroom. I picked it up. She's, like, worried about you. She didn't know where you were. And, like, I thought that she, like, wanted to see you. She wanted to know what your address was so she could send you a card for your birthday. And I just, like, I wanted to do this nice thing for you. It sounds like she's cleaned up her act. Because remember, Oliver said his mom is a drug addict. And his dad's dead. And she's probably fallen off the wagon. And Oliver's like, please turn around. That doesn't happen. Felix is like, so then they pull up in the driveway, and Felix is like, this is like a really nice place. Like, she really seems to like have done well for herself. Maybe she got her act together. And Oliver's like, yeah, can you just like let me go in the house by myself? And Felix is like, I'm not letting you go through this alone, because he's a nice boy.
He's
trying to do his best. So they knock on the front door. His mom opens the door, hugs Oliver. Oliver looks like he would like the ground to swallow him whole.
Yes,
Felix
Oliver
is
is
like,
not
this is
having
great.
fun.
I'm so glad that I have brought these two people together. Oliver's mom hugs Felix. She goes, oh my God, so nice to meet you. I'm going to go get your dad. He's in the garden. And Felix goes,
What?
his dad? And Oliver's mom's like, yeah, I'll be right back. You guys come in. Cut to the funniest scene. They're all sitting in the living room. Felix is laughing whatever story Oliver's parents are telling. Oliver looks like he would like God to just combust him right there. And Felix is like, this is really interesting. And then they start talking about, oh yeah, in fact, Oliver's dad's like, yeah, our favorite place is Mykonos. We used to go there every year, but now not that the kids are older. And Felix is like, the kids? You never told me you had siblings, because Oliver told Felix he was an only child. And Oliver
With no
was like,
dad.
yeah, no, I definitely missed her. I definitely mentioned all of my sisters all the time. And Oliver's mom's like, I'm not surprised. He always wanted to be an only child. He used to pretend that in school. But now look at him. He's doing so well. He's top of his class at Oxford. And Felix is like, that's interesting. I didn't know you were top of your class at Oxford that I go to with you, Oliver. And Oliver's like, yeah, can we go now? Oh yeah, I have a headache. Can I go upstairs? And Felix like, just takes the medication and grow up, Oliver. And they drive back to Saltburn basically in silence. Yep. And they get there, and Oliver's like, oh my God, can I please explain? And Felix like, you know what? It's too late to cancel the party. So my mom threw for you. So I'm gonna let it go ahead, and then I need you to leave. And Oliver's like, you're not gonna tell them. He's like, why? Felix like, why would I do that? This is embarrassing enough as it is. So just enjoy your party, and I never want to speak to you again.
Which is the right reaction.
Yeah.
I was genuinely shocked when this happened. This happened maybe halfway through. This movie is like an hour and a half. This happens, I don't know, probably 45 minutes or an hour in. I had been watching this movie for 4 hours at this point. It took me about 6 hours to watch this movie. So I think if I had been watching it all the way through, there would be little hints that I might have picked up. I had been watching it in beats and pieces.
But also, that makes that scene with the phone call diabolical because we see him get the phone call.
Diabolical.
So, like, when did he come up with the plan? Was it when he got the phone call? Because we don't know what the phone call was. It very clearly wasn't, your dad's dead or even sick. Because he seems like a healthy, well-adjusted man. So, like, what was the phone call for him to show up in tears at Felix's door?
I also saw a TikTok, back to the little throwing the stone with the dad's name into the pool, where apparently in the scene, the stone doesn't actually, like, go all the way into the water. It just, like, hangs out the side. Which, if true, that's cool foreshadowing.
And then it lands on the side, and he goes, "Oh, that can't be good." And it turned out it was not good for him.
No. But yeah, homeboy is he's not really found out. He's found out by Felix. But true to his word, Felix, I mean, I don't blame him. If I took this boy home and then it turns out he'd been lying, I would not want to admit that either. I think the right thing to do is just get him to leave as quickly as possible, because having this all come out would make it worse for literally everybody.
Mm-hmm. And then, like, especially considering, not that this would have made it better, but if he had just lied to get Felix to invite him to his house, that'd be different. But, like, he lied long before that was a possibility. Like, that was one of the first things it seems like they shared with each other, is about their family. And so for that to be a lie,
bonded them.
Yeah.
The party does go on as told. It's like Shakespeare themed.
I think it's a Midsummer's Night Dream themed, and I take it back. This was the hottest Barry Keoghan looked at this entire film.
Yeah, this really takes the cake.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but something about it. And then so Jacob Elordi back in his PR team. I know this is not his PR team, but he's pulling like a Juliet and the 90s Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio, little angel wings moment he's got going on. He's just a small boy that looks like a refrigerator.
He is a very teeny. He is so baby girl.
He's like a 50s refrigerator.
Yeah.
One of those colorful ones.
Yeah. Like a really pretty color. Yeah. Yeah. Oliver knows he has to leave after the party. But Oliver, like, he doesn't want to leave. He is finally being able to cosplay as rich and famous, which seems to be kind of what he wanted all along. And so he is like, you know what? Maybe if I talk to Felix, I can smooth this over. Mm-hmm. And so he tries. They meet up. Well, they don't really meet up. Oliver kind of follows him. And it's like, Felix, I love you so much. I'm not in love with you because that would be gay, but, like, I'm in love with you. Maybe we can just forget about this. It's not, like, that big of a deal anyway. It's not like I lied to you, and it's not like the entire basis of our friendship is based on a lie. I think, we could be cool again. And Felix is like, I think it would be cooler if you got therapy.
And never spoke to me ever again.
Yeah, which I do think I side with Felix on this. I would be pretty upset. Kalina, I think now is a great time to tell you that I actually never went to school in Ireland. And
you were just...
Yeah, I just made that up.
Oh my God.
I killed whoever you were with, and
we're too far in it now.
Yeah.
Honestly, Felix, it's good Felix caught that early on. I feel like if it was 5 years down the line, you're like, and at this point.
Yeah. At that point, they probably, like, be living together and have a cat that they don't share, but they definitely do share. And they've weirdly, like, stopped hooking up with girls on the side, and maybe even once or twice hooked up with each other. Anyway, Felix is like, get help, and Oliver is like, I don't really want to. And then, wouldn't you know it, these violent delights have violent ends, or whatever it is that Shakespeare said. What happens in the morning? Our pretty Juliet, our lover boy, certified lover boy,
Is tragically dead.
his short life, he was able to accomplish a lot, such as being hot and befriending a liar.
I thought this was really interesting on the IMDb from a filming perspective, in that we never, so what happens is the party's over, it's the next day. Oliver wakes up and we hear everyone like shouting for Felix. And so Oliver puts on a robe and he's like walking through like the trashed house trying to figure out what's going on. We see Venetia and Farley like in the pond, like digging through, I guess, looking for him. There's this figure we see standing out of focus a bunch of times. I assume it's James, because James, Felix's dad's like not all there in the head. And I think he's just standing there trying to find him. And then you hear Felix's mom in the maze calling for him. And the maze is the last place we saw Felix. And then all of a sudden you hear this like gut-wrenching scream. And everyone like stops. And then Venetia and Farley like clamber out the pond and like scramble to the maze. And everyone ends up there. And we see like, just like the way it's framed is from the ground. And you see his wing. And then in the background, you see his mom, like, turned around and she won't look at him. And she's very much about, like, the right reaction. So, like, you never see her, like, distraught. You just hear this scream. But anyway, what I thought was interesting from a filming perspective is that while we never see her discover his body, they acted that scene out, apparently, just to have that moment. And that's where that scream comes from. But, like, just so they had that for the audio and for, like, the progression of the film. And Rosamund Pike says, she goes, Jacob was there in full makeup, generous person that he is, just so I could have that experience of, like, discovering my son's dead body. And then Venetia and Farley come in, and they fall to the ground on their knees, and then Felix's dad comes in. He's like, come help me move him. We just have to get him inside. He's just cold. And they're like, yeah, I don't think we can move him. And then Oliver's just kind of standing there looking, I don't even know if he's just there. He's there.
Yeah, he
looks like he doesn't know how to feel.
Yeah.
Oh, also, sorry, Farley's there because they invited him to the party for some reason. And Farley's like, that's what you don't understand about these people. It's like, they will always invite me back.
Barring, like, big, huge, massive, like, betrayal, he'll be let back in.
I don't think it's fair to be like, because I think anytime you do something generous or like charity-esque, you do it, this might not be the intention, but it makes you feel good, and that is a benefit of doing it. But I think in these people's cases, it's like they are more interested in the way that doing something charity-esque makes them feel and look, versus like the fact that it will benefit someone's life. And I think Farley knows that is what he is hanging on to. It works out for him, but he knows, like, they're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts and that they care about Farley. It's because they care about how it makes them feel and look.
Yeah. Which, like, isn't necessarily the right way to, like, go about things, but it's also... Yeah. It's probably healthy on some level for Farley to be able to realize that and come to terms with that however he has to.
Like, Farley, I think, is aware of it, and so he will use it to his advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, our boy,
and then
our
also
is dead. He is not
there's a scene where they're all sitting in the they're having breakfast, I think, in the, like, whatever, where you eat breakfast, and the blinds are completely closed, but the blinds are red, so it looks like they're just hanging out in a dungeon.
Oh, also, okay, this I was really excited to talk about this because I did in fact notice this before I read it on IMDb. But in one of the early scenes, I think when they're having breakfast for the first time together, when Oliver first comes to Saltburn, they're talking about some poet, and Venetia's like, oh my god, I think the guy's name is Shelley. And she's like, yeah, have you ever heard the story of Shelley's doppelganger? And Oliver's very well read, which is something that impresses Felix's father. So they're all talking about this poet. And they're like going back and forth, and Venetia's like, yeah, there's this poet, have you ever heard the story of his doppelganger? Basically, this lady was his maid was like cleaning the house or whatever, and she saw him Shelly in the window, and he waved to her and she waved back, and then afterwards the maid realized that like Shelly was like in a different country, and then later that day they found out he had died, and Felix is sitting there going, he's like, oh my god, don't tell me that, I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight. But when she tells that story, a Felix doppelganger passes behind her in the window, which foreshadows Felix dying.
That is clever. Oh, and we get another fun little weird little scene. This one, unfortunately, wasn't as sexy as the other ones. But they can't all be winners. Oliver goes to visit his poor, dearly departed friend. Visits his grave. And apparently, for filming this, Barry Keoghan said, I would like a closed set. And Emma Flannel said, sure.
He said, I'm going to try something.
He said, I'm gonna do a trick. And the trick that he did, which, to be fair, made sense. Oliver gave the grave and Felix some flowers. And then he proceeded to biblically know the broken ground above his friend's body.
I'm always impressed with how you word things. Genuinely.
Thank you.
You're very good.
Thank you. And it was weird, but it was also weirdly powerful. And
he's like
also,
crying the whole time he's doing this.
He's having a full breakdown. Well, not a full breakdown. He's just crying. He's not happy. He's not having a good time.
I will say, however, sorry, when I thought of that, when I saw that scene, it made me think of that, and then also like paralleled with like the vampire scene with Venetia. It's him. It didn't feel like grief because, oh my god, my friend is dead. It felt very much to me like he's in act. This is his like. He could never have Felix, and I think he knew that. Because Felix would just never want him in that way. Mm-hmm. So, like, he could never have Felix as... Not to sound like an insane person, okay? But, like, even if I wasn't in love with someone, sometimes you love someone so much you, like, want to occupy their brain at every single aspect and every single way you can. Even if I'm not, like, biblically in love with you. And... knowing that he could never have that, his only other choice now was to enact his power over Felix, and like now he got to do that because Felix wasn't dead. Felix couldn't do anything. Felix would no longer be above him because Felix literally just could not participate in the story. He could haunt the narrative, but he would never be in the narrative, if that makes sense.
This is probably... I think this is the first time where Oliver is able to win an interaction with Felix.
Because, like, before, like, I'd say he's, like, has the upper hand when he, like, told Felix, oh, yeah, I didn't sleep with your sister. And then, like, he's definitely, like, he's, like, got her to eat food for the first time. And they're, like, you know, he's, like, got this, like, sly little thing on the side. He's got one over on Felix, but, like, that's not enough. So now he, now he finally has the upper hand.
It does. Oh, and our friend does not leave Saltburn because, well, first of all, Felix isn't there to make sure he leaves. Mm-hmm. And Felix's mom is like, no, I think you should stay. Which, fair enough. I probably wouldn't, but Elspeth is like, Oliver, stay. And Oliver says, okay, you don't have to ask me twice. I love hanging out with people who are in the very early stages of the grieving process.
And all but one of them.
Yeah. And Venetia is not having a good time. She just lost her brother, who kind of was the person she was closest to in the family.
Oh, yeah. Another thing I noticed is they have matching tattoos. Her and Felix.
They do.
Which is very cute. They have, like, stars on their hands.
Apparently, it's the, Like in Harry Potter, when they start the chapter, there's little like stars around the chapter name, and that's what it is, which is cute.
That is cute. Yeah, he was reading Harry Potter.
He was. It was 2006.
We love a learned man. A learned fridge.
We do. We also hate turfs, so
yes,
jot that down. Anyway, Venetia, she's not having a good time. She already did not seem to be the most stable of the bunch. Losing her brother has sent her. What?
So that's saying a lot.
Yeah. Oh,
none
yeah.
of them were
saying a whole
fully
lot.
on the
None of
rocket.
them were batting 1,000.
Felix
but
was the most sane.
He was. Venetia not having a good time, having an even worse time now. She kind of understandably is putting a lot of her anger on this new person who she does not know, and before he existed, her family did not have problems like this. She says some mean things.
And then also, I think there's a scene after she realizes that what Oliver said to Felix. She's like, I'm kind of disappointed. Like, I thought you'd stand up to him, but you did what all of his other little playthings that he brings here does and deferred to him. So she's a little, not, fully disgusted, but, not impressed. She's not wowed by the Oliver charm anymore.
No. They had their moment. Not there anymore. And Oliver's like, no, it's fine. I'm cool. And Regina's like, no, I don't think so.
But her acting in this scene I thought was phenomenal. There's this little quote where she goes, oh, my dad calls you Spider-Man, but you know what you are? You're a moth. You're drawn to shiny things, and you're batting up against the window, desperate to get in. You're gonna eat your holes in all of us. And she gets in his face, and she was she says something about Felix being a dinner plate essentially, and Oliver, she's you ate the food and licked the plate clean, and she's this close to it. It's so good. That was the best scene in the whole movie for me.
She's also Irish.
She's Irish. We love an Irish queen.
But unfortunately, this
also,
Irish
I don't know
queen,
if you mentioned this, but all of this also takes place in the bathtub. She's taking a bath in her dead brother's bathtub.
Yes. Which, do not bother a woman while she's having a grief bath.
Don't bother a woman while she's having a bath.
Yeah. This is her last bath.
The last thing she'll ever do.
She does kill herself. In the same tub where Oliver once knew Felix by proxy. So now these poor parents have lost both of their children, and they're kind of over having Oliver hanging around, which fair enough.
The dad is.
The dad is, yeah. The mom is going. She's off. I believe she could be classed as being away with the fairies at this point in her life.
And I think she only knows how to take her taking on a project is how she makes herself feel better about things. So her life's falling apart, and she's like, I can just hang on to Oliver. That'll be my project still.
Oliver basically gets bribed to leave. And I just want to know how Oliver came back to school after this. Everybody hurt. And does he change? Either he has to change schools or Farley has to change schools. There's no way they both go back to Oxford and continue their degrees as normal. Because, there's no way. But the people, both kids dead, Oliver gone. And then that's kind of that's it. The chapter has been closed on 2006.
Yes. So they're gone. Then we cut to Oliver returning, going to a room, and it's very clearly not his dorm room that we saw earlier. And he's reading in the newspaper a little article that says Sir James Catton, whatever their last name is. And he's in the obituaries, right? And he was a little older, so I didn't realize this till a couple shots later, but it's a few years down the line. Unclear how many. And then we see Oliver sitting. Well, we see, yes, ma'am.
I do believe we see people in face masks of some sort. So I do think it's supposed to be either 2020 or post.
True, because he was typing on a laptop. Not that they didn't have laptops, but like it was like a Mac. It was like a little.
Yeah.
Anyway, we see. So yeah, it's a while later.
Yeah. Yeah. According to the Wikipedia page, it's 2022. I just kind of got present-ish day vibes.
Yeah. I wouldn't have guessed it was that far along, because, like, that makes the rest of this, again, back to the word I used earlier, diabolical. This man was waiting. But anyway. So we see Felix's mom walk into a cafe, and she's, like, ordering a coffee, and, like, the back of it has, like, a mirror. So in the background, you can see Oliver, typing away a little computer, and she's like, Oliver? And he looks up, and he's like, oh, my God, Elspeth, and they hug, and he looks so good. This is the second best he looks in the entire movie. He looks so good. I cannot put into words how good this man looks in this little sweater. Okay? That's all I can think about this whole scene. But she's like, yeah, I moved, it's so funny. I got like an apartment around here. And he's like, yeah, I heard about Sir James. I'm so sorry. She's like, yeah, I had to like leave Saltburn. It was just too big and too many rooms with just me there. And then she's like, you should. But then when she's leaving, she's like, you should come to Saltburn sometime. And we haven't mentioned this, but throughout the story starts, and it's very clearly Oliver older, and he's like narrating to someone. And I thought he was like narrating to a cop. He's like smoking a little cigarette. He's sitting in a chair. You never see the other person. It's just this frame of him. So that's how the story starts, and it kind of interjects in the middle a little bit. And he's like, blah, 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 this happened now. And then when they start talking about Felix and everyone dying, he's like, I mean, you know what happens next. And we kind of go through that bit of the story kind of quickly. And then it turns out he's talking to Felix's mom. He's like, yeah, but then you got sick so quickly. And she's like in bed. She's like, there's a bunch of tubes in her. She's in a hospital bed in Saltburn. And she's like got a breathing apparatus. And he's like, but, I'll take good care of this place. Like, you took care of it, and, like, you took care of me. And you can see, like, there's a shot of him pushing her around in a wheelchair and her signing Saltburn over to him.
Then we get a shot, basically, we get a scene where it's just Oliver and Elspeth left. They're hanging out, except for not really. Elspeth can't really do anything but be on life support at this stage.
Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, you got sick all of a sudden.
Yeah, very tragic, very sudden. And then our friend Oliver decides to... one part of being on life support is that you get a tube inserted very, very, very far down your throat because you cannot breathe on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And Oliver pulls this tube out of Elspeth, and it is a very... This movie has a lot happen in it. This scene was very, very hard to watch, and I didn't like it, and I don't remember a lot of it. I remember him pulling the tube out, but now she cannot breathe on her own, and she very quickly succumbs to whatever unknown illness unknowingly somehow managed to pop up at the exact same time that Oliver popped back up.
Which goes back to my diabolical, because do you know how many years, especially now knowing it was 2022, how many years he just waited that out?
Almost 20.
And like, unless he had something to do with James, he had to hope James would die first, which like he probably would because he was older, but like just bank all his money on that.
Yeah, because this wouldn't have worked if it was just the dad left.
Yeah.
But basically, what we now know is that poor boy Oliver, all he really wanted was friends, and then all this tragedy just happened to surround him, and he did nothing wrong. And basically for compensation for just having bad luck with all these friends who drop like flies, he gets to become the new owner of Saltburn and gets all of the money that Elspeth had left to give.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has a little happy dance around his brand new mansion.
But
and
naked.
He did nothing wrong.
The reason, and then so he's like, basically, while he's narrating before he pulls the breathing tube out, he's like, yeah, I'm basically just narrating how he killed everyone, right? So he poisoned Felix, turns out, which I thought was interesting because when Felix died, there was never, I thought someone was going to make a mention of like, how did my boy die? Because he was perfectly healthy the day before. And then I guess Venetia's wasn't too shocking because she didn't seem like the most stable. But anyway, he killed the two of them, and he killed Felix. He poisoned the bottle of wine Felix was drinking from. But I think there was also a shot where, like, he had drank from the bottle of wine, but then he made himself throw up. But it was very, like, Romeo and Juliet-y. And remember I was talking about Felix wearing those little angel wings that Juliet wears in the Romeo and Juliet movie. And then we assume, slit Venetia's wrists herself, or for her. I guess, not for her, but for her, and left her in the tub, and then came in the next morning and was like, oh my God, because we see that when we find her dead, it's him that finds her dead, and it's like, oh my God, Venetia's dead, how did this happen? That's crazy. And I don't think we ever, like, see how he poisons Elspeth, but it's clearly, like, very slowly over time. She gets weaker and weaker.
Yeah.
So he can exert his control over her.
My main thing is, I feel like we got okay. I think we either should have gotten absolutely just no hints at why he wanted to do this, or like gone just a little bit more into why, because we get like very small hints of like, obviously he wants to have this power. He wants to be able to kind of be Felix in the sense that everybody loves him. He can have whatever he wants. Like, it was obviously like, that's why he was doing this. But I think we either should have gotten almost more or less reason, because we didn't get too far into him. Like, we know next to nothing about most of the characters, but like, if you're gonna kill that many people, I either need to just fully believe you had just something is just way incredibly off in your brain for you to want to do this for no reason, just because you think it'll be fun, or like maybe a rich guy spit in your face when you were 5 and you never got over it. Like, I would have liked a little bit more.
I think that's the thing with weird movies, though, is I think, one, we know something's wrong with Oliver because he lied about his background, and his mom said, yeah, he always used to pretend he was an only child. So, like, that's like him pretending to be someone else and, like, dreaming of better things for himself, even though he was well off, was very clearly, like, a character trait.
It's not new. But
then also, I think with, like, a quote-unquote weird movie, is it taps into a feeling I think everyone has had, and, like, what would you do under the worst possible circumstances if you got to indulge that feeling? So I think it gave you enough, because like I said, if someone had come to me at the end, here's what I wanted to say. If someone had come to me at some point before I saw the movie or in the middle of it, right, and was like, would you believe that he killed all these people? Because it's not hinted at till he tells you. And I've been like, oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was suspicious of that. And then, like, even when Sir James died, I was like, I'm not convinced he didn't have something. I'm like, genuinely, I'm not convinced he didn't have something to do with that. And I'm surprised he didn't kill Farley. Like, Farley got out good, all things considered. Farley got out
scot-free, yeah.
But, like, I think the feeling of wanting to be someone is something everyone can relate to. And the feeling of wanting, of, like, feeling like you deserve more in life is something everyone can relate to. And it's like, what would you do if like your dreams were like dropped in front of you essentially, and like all you had to do to like have them was just like nudge things in the right direction a little bit? Like if you had slightly less morals, and the opportunity presented itself, like, what would you do? And I think the theory, like, anyone in it's capable of horrible things. Just like this movie's indulging that, and that's why I'm like, it could have been weirder, because like everything that happened,
I think it should have been
everything that happened. Like, one, especially because going into it, everyone talked about, oh my god, the bathtub scene, and then I heard a couple mentions of the grave scene. I could have like guessed what he did before he did it. To me, weirder would have been like, oh my god, I never would have thought of doing that. Like, I get the motivation behind the action, I get how we got here, but I never would have thought of that specific action.
Yeah, things weren't necessarily like predictable.
Yeah,
but like I think there were envelopes that could have been pushed a lot more. Or like, yeah, really one of the most, I don't want to say shocking, it wasn't shocking, but like one thing is like when he kind of did the actual killing of Elspeth, or like the other ones, he kind of, I mean, obviously he poisoned Felix, but like it was a lot more,
that's hands off,
letting it happen kind of. Yeah, it was a lot more hands off, whereas this, like, what did he like shove the tube back when the doctors came?
That's
like,
what
the
I was
doctors
wondering
are
about.
gonna have to come back in, because you can't just like leave her dead body there. Or like, maybe she did die of quote unquote natural causes, and I do think he let her body hang out there for a while. And I'm not saying that necrophilia is good.
Oh my
and
god,
that,
okay,
like,
I was just about to say, like, that is what I thought because again, remember I said him exacting control over Felix. Finally, when Felix is in his grave, he climbs on top of Elspeth to like finish talking to her and pull the tube out. And like, I genuinely thought that's where that was going to go. Not because I'm like, this should happen, but like, this is he can finally exact his control on the last person that will ever have a hold on Saltburn over him.
Mm-hmm. And I think that I'm so sorry I have to say this sentence. I think doing something weird with Elspeth, either while she was dying or right after she died, would also have been a way to kind of pull one over on the dad.
Yeah.
Because he never really got to pull. I mean, there's no way he wasn't just absolutely livid with the dad. I mean, just for existing, but also like kicking him out there. I would have liked for him to get revenge on the dad in some way. I'm sure you're right. He did have something to do with his death in some probably convoluted way, but like, I would have liked to see him do something.
And I felt so vindicated when they were like showing all those things. Like when she runs into him in the coffee shop, he's typing absolute nonsense on a Word document because he knew she was going to be there. He was just biding his time. And I was like, it's just too much of a coincidence. Oh my God, he's all grown up now and he looks so nice. And he just happens to run into you after your husband has passed away and you're lonely and you love him. But anyway, my official review of Saltburn could have been weirder.
It could have been weirder. But it was decently weird.
I think we should make more weird movies. I really liked it. I think a movie, I love a movie that like you can watch for the vibes, but also if you want to get something out of it, you can. And I think like if I wanted to turn this on and not think about it, I would have been like, damn, this is crazy, and moved on with my day. But also like the little nuggets of like the bleached hair, Felix's doppelganger, like these little like odes to things, and the genre of the film and the literary canon that it works within also, because it does have a lot of references to like Shakespeare, to like it has a lot of references to like Midsummer's Night Dream and like Emily Bronte and like just like literary works that work for the aesthetic of the film, because the film feel like you were talking earlier about it being a period piece, quote unquote, because of the time it takes place in. It is very like of the time, but also because of where Saltburn is located. And I think I saw the places from like the 1300s or something, like where they filmed, but like it feels very like old English aristocrat also. So like the canon of the time and the canon of the time of the film, the canon of the time of the setting that it's from, all those good things. I think it like is very not self-referential, but like referential to the content, the the backlog,
Yeah.
I don't want to say literary canon again, but like the canon it works within.
No, I
It
agree.
references.
But yeah, it was good. More weird movies.
More weird movies.
Maybe we'll watch Promising Young Woman.
I think it was a crime that they made Jacob Elordi take his eyebrow ring out after he left Oxford.
Me too.
But yeah, could have been weirder.
Could have been weirder, but was good.
Was good.
Thank you very much for listening. Sorry I got weird
We've been
about
here.
Barry.
I'm not sorry.
Me either.
I think you could have been weirder.
Oh, I was censoring myself for the internet. We'll talk later.
But I have been Kalina.
And I have been Elanor.
And we will see you next week, hopefully.
Hopefully.
With something fun.
Yes. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening. Don't quote me on that. One day we'll have an outro, but it's not today.